Here we go. Strength of America podcast. This is actually number 14 this week. Miscounted last week. Bobby Davis. Talk to you a little bit today about core mobility. We hear about a lot all the times on, what is core strength? We all need to do core. We've got to have this, tight core. What is the core? What does it mean? Does it mean we need to be able to do a 5-minute plank to have a strong core? As an athlete, do we do the mobile stuff or stationary things? So, Bobby, want to kind of introduce a lot more of that and talk to you a little bit more about that part.
So the thing I like to talk about and question people on, when we're talking about performance and health and longevity, even if it's not performance, maybe we're an adult or someone just trying to feel better and move better. Sit-ups and all the bending and stuff aren't going to be your answer. Those would be stuff that'll be, sure, if we're looking for like beach body, trying to make things pop and different things like that, then that could be a route. But really wrong hard body stuff. But really the lumbar spine wasn't made to flex, it was made to stabilize. So when we think about that, when we're doing all the bending motions and all that, we're putting some stress on that lower spine, that lumbar spine and all those discs along there. So we want to think about, yes, planks like he said, down planks, low, high, side, different variations like that. And that's, I think, a great point to start to teach how to use the core, how to be stiff. But then from there, how do we progress it? Do we just go for 5, 10, 20 minutes? Probably not, unless we're looking for a camaraderie thing with the team and they're doing a challenge for fun. But outside of that, we got to look at a way to build strength in the core. Endurance is great, but strength is king. As we're going through and athletes are being explosive, okay, they're jumping, cutting, sprinting hard. They got to be able to stiffen up and stay tight and stable and resist all the rotations, all the lateral movements and different things going on. If they can't do that, they're not strong enough. They just can't move efficiently. So we're going to go over a couple things today, exercise-wise, and to give you an idea of where you can go about it, how you can start building some creativity and thought in that. So we'll post some more throughout this week.
Yeah, and I think the big part, like he talks about with that core and stabilizing, having that tight, it's great, but it's that reactive movement. We talk about, our athletes controlling the melon or change of direction. So we get our stuff going into it. And we talk about with that is they've got to have a strong core to move. Especially if we got a kid, give the kids a hard time, especially the big, the young guys and stuff where they've got bigger heads, when they move and change direction. We drop to change direction. That control of the melon is how many times you see during a game a kid changes like this and they move back and forth. You're exhausted by the end of the game. So if you're not efficient in the core, and what he's saying is not just here I'm stable, but I can contract, decelerate, and then explode in the new direction I need to go. That's athletic. That's good core stabilization. So I can make contact, explode in the new direction I have to. Whether I'm going through another athlete or not, it's all about controlling that body. Not easy, but it's explosive movement, hard, pushing back into that. So that's where, part of that when we talk about getting into a good plank position, for example, we're in the core and we've got that. Okay, great. I've got to be stable here. My forearms, elbows are underneath the shoulder. That's great. I'm tight. But the other part you got to think of is now getting that pelvic tilt. We can't sit there with the butt up in the air. We've got to do just like our quad stretch the other day. Tuck that underneath. And then tightness is if somebody's getting ready to hit you in the gut. And you get that position where they tighten, that's where they need to be. That's our body position. That's our core strength, holding that. Now, depending on how strong it is, you can hold that longer, or you lose that strength. When they'll start an exercise, they're great, and then they start to lose that core as they're out. Mainly, they're not thinking about it. So we've got to train them that way as we work the core. But to me, it's not, okay, now we're going to work the core. Everything we do, our speed, our arm ranges, our mechanics of speed, the running, change of direction, power, you've got to have good stability, good strength in that core. And for me, for our athletes, it's more about their reactive core strength, how they hit, they move, and they come back in that position. It's just landing, that's great. But how many times do we just land and that's it in the game? You got to land and react, get back into position. So that's where I think we want to talk a lot more about how, why, and I think with some of the drills we're going to show a couple of you here for you. Then we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then throughout the week, we'll have those posted along with our daily posts that we're going to put into it. Part will be breaking down this core strengthening, what we really need, and what it means to us, and how we've progressed even from the years ago, what we used to do 30 years ago. It's changing a lot too. So
yeah, and I think when Bob talks about stationary versus dynamic, stationary is where we get fundamentals of plank and hold, but then we want to find ways to challenge that body, make the body move while we're stiff. We're going to show a power press or power hold and some different variants and how you can go off that. But when we talk about core, I mean, there's also simple things as we're going to show another one, getting a plank and sliding a dumbbell across. Okay, when you remove that hand, you're moving that across the body. You got to resist the rotations. You got to flex down, stay tight. Carries are another thing. Loaded carries. Okay, above head, opposites, whatever you want to do. But that's another phenomenal core exercise. Gets pretty dynamic, and you can get a good load on them also. So that's a good stressor. We use stability balls. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. We'll post a few different ways, but we just want to really get you thinking about what you're doing and why, or how to maybe change things up a little bit. If you are maybe doing the same things and you feel like, well, I just don't really know how to challenge it. So we'll give you some different ideas and tips on that. So, collar hold. So we're going to use a band. These are the same bands that we use for a lot of our different jumps and different things. We use them in our weight room for bench and stuff. So a good tool to have, pretty cheap. All you're going to do on this one, I'm going to have you stand back that way for me. He's going to get good tension on that band. You can, when we're in the weight room, we pair it with our exercises. We group it together so we can anchor this band on a rack. If you're doing a movement session and you want to get your athletes working on core more often, maybe if you have time in the weight room, then you can have a partner out. You just got to make sure you got a good partner. He doesn't let go and snap me while I'm moving there. So hold, I'm going to stack my posture nice and tall. Okay, I'm lined up with him here, so I'm going to press out ahead. Notice my body wants to rotate, so my job is to flex tight and stay tight here. Okay, you can start off by holding that for time. As I get better, I can start adding in a press as I'm moving. So now I got to maintain that stiffness as I get away. From there, we can go down to a athletic stance position. They're holding. He can even try to move and pull as I sit there. My favorite one that I go to is a split squat. You may not be able to see my legs from here, but my knee is just above the ground here. Now I am holding out and holding there. Okay, you can notice it's really turning from the hips a lot. Knee stability, hip, all that stuff. There's a lot going on there. So definitely when you start that, start up tall. Start with a hold. Start pressing out. And then the more challenging way is to kind of progress on down to that. When you get down to that split squat with that knee just above the ground there, it's a whole lot of stability there.
Yeah, and that's where, we do the same kind of thing. We're here at my fitness studio I've got over, and I do personal training in Scottsdale. And my clients here are more, I call them experienced athletes. They range from our 40s to my 94-year-olds. I've got a couple of 94-year-olds that I train here as well. But they do all these same kind of things. But you get the basics down where he just has a static hold, kind of hold in that position. But then we can go into up-down movements, we can change into it, just like with our balls and some of the around the circular movements into it. But start something stationary first, get that control, then introduce movement to it. And then he made it tougher by dropping down into a base squat position, holding that, and then dropping into a lunge position where he's in that split squat, we're down, and then doing the same and changing that variation. And like I said, my ones in the 90s, they still plank, they do all that kind of stuff, but we're much more into that movement with it because that's their body. In their 90s, they want, like I told them, they want to get up and down off the toilet. They don't want to call 911 because you're stuck because you can't get off the toilet. We've got to be strong and get on it. And so they work all these different angles to get it. And that's our athletes at any age, we've got to get that far. So that's really important to keep moving.
Now another advanced one that may be pretty far up is you could also stand on one leg, laces high, and press up from there. That's going to be pretty challenging, but that'll be a good point, and then you can start marching with it. But definitely start up tall, start very simple, and then start to challenge them going through. You'll know if it looks pretty rough, just regress them back a little bit, and then as they get stronger, they'll be able to handle it.
That's what I'm talking about. YouTube has been great because there's so many different things we're learning. However, we always tell our coaches and athletes and parents working with them, look for new drills. I mean, we're constantly looking how do you change it up, but also understand as you're looking at that, some of those just have crazy things on it. I don't mean standing on a stability ball and go ahead and doing all this at the same time. Who needs to do that? However, start with the basics. Okay, this is functional. This is what I need to do. That's great. Start basic and then go up to it. Don't put 64-inch boxes and say, okay, now I'm going to see what I can do for my vertical jump. Yeah. And you eat it. So
that's one thing when we're in the weight room or anything. Yesterday, for example, we had a bunch of tennis girls. We have some that are experienced, know what they're doing, and some that are freshmen, very new, do not even know what a dumbbell is. And we'll be trap bar jumping and front squatting with a barbell. And some of the newer ones, just they start out with simplicity, so they're not too scared away right away, but they can get into movement quick and they can do it well and start to load pretty fast. Is they'll do a dumbbell goblet squat right here. Okay, they'll do a dumbbell jump here. Okay, but it's simple. So I think whenever you have athletes, you're not always just going to have great athletes that can just crush it. It's very often So they're going to have to learn. So I think the basis of that is have a progression from the base exercise and a regression or two. That way on the fly, you can adjust pretty quickly because not everything is always going to look picture perfect. You know, we'd like it to be, but Rome wasn't built in a day and it takes time to build these things. So,
and that's what we're tying it. I'm going to have him show you the goblet. Because again, we talk about the core. It's not just, okay, now we're going to do abs. Okay, it's time to work the core. You can do it through everything. So he does this time. He's going to do his goblet squat with a weight this time. What I want you to look for, again, this core, when he's doing sideways, I'm going to come up here. As he just does his normal squat, watch his body posture. As he squats, he comes back up. Now, this time he's going to go down and do the jump that he had done before. He's going to hang that weight down below. Now, again, the whole idea is he does a jump, and as he lands, he's not letting that weight pull down. So you're trying to, yes, we're watching the knees, we're watching the hips for the body positioning on it. We're getting a good hinge, or we're popping ourselves up. But too many of them will come into it, okay, I'm doing it, I'm jumping, I'm doing that, you know, up and down all over, and they drop to, you know, cave in the chest. We've got to have that. That's where the core, and that's helping them understand that in all of these different things, we talk about the core, their abdomen, the dynamic movement, and where they're at, and how it's static. That helps them understand. The more we can educate them to all of this, it makes our job much easier. And they're going to be much stronger too.
And then the nice thing when we get through these are all basic that really isolate that core pretty hard, that trunk all around. But when you start to squat heavy, front, back, all that, you're going to get a lot of core work right there. So we got to keep it simple once we get to that point. But we got to build up, we got to get to load, we got to isolate. But then the full body, those are when you get to some heavy squats and stuff. When you do it right, that'll be a lot of core work and all that. Let me show you one more back here. See if we can tilt it down a little bit. So this is going to be a plank dumbbell slide. Okay, so I'm getting down on a plank over here up high on my hands. Now when I'm moving, I'm going to stack my feet kind of wide out. That way I have a good base. If I'm too tight, it's going to be real challenging when we have balance feet. Okay, so that's one way to progress is by bringing feet in, but definitely have them start wide. Make sure they can control their hips and their core. So as I'm pulling and stack my feet wide, I want to squeeze my butt, squeeze my core. I'm going to slide across. Okay, take my time, slide across. Okay, a lot of challenge there. A lot of kids you'll see that don't challenge and squeeze and engage and keep things tight. When they're moving, there'll be a lot of rocking. We get a lot of tilt from the body. So we want to make sure we really lock that down and keep it tight and fight the rotation. Because again, when we're moving, we're cutting, changing, sprinting. We don't want a lot of rotation because now we're going to be fighting the body from doing what it should be doing. Okay, this should be staying tight while arms and legs move or drop or cut or jump. So we want them to work alongside each other, not against each other when they're moving.
Perfect. So hopefully it gave you a few ideas. And again, think more about your program. What are you doing for your core stuff? I can do curls. We still have to work on the balance and everything, stabilizing ourselves. Again, we're out here wide. Great. We're stable. We're our feet close together. It's tougher. Feet close together as you do curls and we're alternating. It's tougher than doing them together. Here we're pulling. It makes us work harder. Now you elevate to one leg as we do that. We're stabilizing hips, balance, core, getting everything into it. Same with our punches or anything, any movement you do. Think about, are you really engaging your core when you're doing it? And so that clients will ask, well, now, do I do this? Do I do the pelvic tilt now? You're doing it in everything you do. We're doing our pull downs. We want to get that good tilt. So we get good abdomen, flexibility, strength, everything we're pulling through. Our rotational pulls and movements. Med ball work that we're in there. We're never just hips back sloppy kind of throwing around. It's always tight, specific, explode into the target. So challenge you this week to take a look. I mean, obviously watch the Instagram posts that we're going to put across. Twitter will have different, videos on several different ones for you. And we'll keep that going as well. And we'll put that in our core and stability, section that we'll have on the YouTube page. But we also want to hear from you. What are some of the things that you do specific for your core? Or do you just mix your core into everything you do with your training, which is, to me, the ideal way to do it, rather than, okay, we're done with everything else, now let's work the core. Yeah, what you guys would say.
Yeah, we mix it in everything we do. And I think that's throwing a lot at you, but I think it gets you to realize that, hey, everything I kind of do involves my core, so we got to realize that. So I think definitely start very basic when you're going through it, and then realize, then we can start to get more dynamic moving with stuff, and then we can start to get med ball throws, slams, heavy stuff, and that's a way to progress and regress in a way, because heavy squats, again, like we're talking about throwing a med ball, slamming a med ball, that's forward too. So I think it opens up and it gets you to realize that, okay, we are really getting maybe some good core work here, doing Now it lets you realize maybe we're not doing simple planks and some of that. We set them in a plank and we can't do that. So just kind of open up and see where you're at, assess what you're doing, and see if you're kind of touching each base a little bit and how well you do at those options. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Like, share it, make sure you're part of the YouTube page. I'll make sure I got the link on it, because I've had some others asking because we haven't posted on it lately. But make sure you get over to our main strengthofamerica.us page / the SOApodcast. Make sure it's all one word like that. And from there, you'll be able to get the free vertical jump program. We'll have that on a few more weeks for you. You can take advantage of that, and up to coming clinics and things we'll have for you as well. So let us know what you're doing. Appreciate you being part of the Strength of America family as well. And let us know more topics, things you want covered. But I want to hear about your core. What kind of things are you actually doing for it?
all right. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot.